you're not going to get replaced by AI. AI isn't taking away your job, but somebody who's better at using AI will take away your job. So how can you actually leverage AI better and stay future ready and use it to essentially make your power a superpower with AI? And the third part is we're building community around it so that we all level up together and nobody gets left behind, because there is an element of fear. There is an element of, well, yeah, I kind of use ChatGPT, but do I really need to change everything? This sense of like, no, I still got time. Well, you don't want to end up being like the Blockbuster that got replaced by Netflix, right? So by leveling up together, there's a sense of momentum and support and empowerment that everybody can embrace it.
Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Chingona Revolution podcast. This is your host, Erica Cruz, and I am so excited to introduce today's guest, who is somebody that embodies what it means to lead with vision, with courage, and with purpose. Nikki is the interim CEO of Latinas in Tech, and honestly, her resume is stacked. She is a serial entrepreneur, a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and innovation expert who has spent over 25 years helping global brands evolve and thrive. But what I love the most about Nikki is her passion for helping people, especially helping women, tap into their limitless potential. As you know, that's very on brand and aligned with the purpose of this podcast. Not only does Nikki have one or two, but she has 3 master's degrees. Yes, you heard that correctly. And Nikki is the definition of a lifelong learner. I think if you're a listener to this podcast, you can relate to that. You obviously love learning. I love sharing educational content, and you are consuming it. So I think you will definitely enjoy this episode. She has received major recognition, from being named Entrepreneur of the Year to being honored by Entrepreneur Magazine, the LA Lakers, and more. Now she's using her voice and leadership to make sure Latinas are not left behind in the age of AI. So you are going to walk away from this conversation feeling inspired, informed, and ready to lead in your own way. Let's get into the interview. Nikki, welcome to the podcast. I've already had an amazing time speaking with you before we hit record. So I know that this interview is going to be full of gems for my audience. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I'm so thrilled to be on this podcast. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to get to know more about your audience and how I can share the wisdom.
Yes, I definitely think you have a lot of wisdom to share. You've worn a lot of hats, from being an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker. Even before we were recording, you mentioned, right, really being an immigrant, building a corporate career, walking away from it all. And, now you are the interim CEO of Latinas in Tech, an organization that I respect and value. And so do a lot of my friends that have been in the tech industry as well and also identify as Latinas. I'm wondering, what is it that you think about your journey? What's the through line that has always guided you through all of these different shifts?
That's such a great starting question, because it really captures my entire journey and the lessons I've learned throughout in one single line. That the through line of my journey has been all about creating impact. That's been something that was very much inculcated in me, watching my mother as a young girl, just seeing all the things that she was able to accomplish and give back against all odds. Like, literally could not have had a harder life, and was so driven by purpose and impact that she fought hard, not just to better herself, but to lift everybody else around her. And that was an experience that shaped me growing up. And throughout my journey, it's always been about recognizing that it's very easy to be undervalued and overlooked and underestimated. And you cannot just rely on keeping your head down, working hard, and hoping someone takes a chance on you. What I've learned over and over again is, first, you gotta dream big yourself, because your success is completely limited by the size of your dreams. So if your dreams are small, you cannot expect to be more successful beyond those dreams. So number one, it's always dreaming big. And that's been very much true for me at every stage, whether coming here, coming to America as an immigrant with no resources, no money, no support system, but dreaming big and wanting to make something of myself, to achieving success in my corporate career and dreaming even bigger and saying, no, I want to be an entrepreneur and building a successful business, and then saying, no, I want to build an even bigger multi-million-dollar global company. So each step has been about really pushing the boundaries of my dreams and dreaming even bigger. And the next step that comes after that is doing is greater than dreaming. Because you can have all of the big dreams in the world, but unless you are willing to take action, nothing changes. And that's where you have to have the self-belief, the discipline, and the determination to keep doing it. But the big question then comes about is why? Why have big dreams? Why have the determination to overcome every obstacle and like to still keep at it? And that why comes from a place of purpose. Because if it's not purpose driven, ultimately, our own selfish needs are not big enough to fight the hard battles. But when you do it for something that is bigger than yourself, you find the courage, you find the confidence, you find the, tenacity and the resilience to keep going. And that's why, it's when you look at anyone's journey of accomplishing things, look for that real purpose that's driving them, and find that within yourself, and everything else will fall into place.
Wow, already we are so in alignment with so many things that you mentioned, from, the action, and you having the courage to walk away from what from the outside looking in was already successful.
Mm-hmm.
And my audience has heard my story many times, but I walked away from an engagement. I was engaged, and I also walked away from my tech career to start my own business and pretty much create content, right? And
Yeah.
give back to the community, which you can imagine my immigrant mom thought I was crazy. So it sounds like you've walked away from a lot of things that from the outside looking in looked great. I want to know, how did you know it was time to walk away?
It's something I have held very, very dear to myself, of having an honest conversation and asking myself, am I fulfilled? Because success that has achievement but no fulfillment is not real success. It doesn't matter what you've achieved, but if you're not deeply fulfilled inside, it feels hollow. It feels really empty. And so for me, there's always been those two questions of, am I achieving what I want, all of those big dreams, but am I also fulfilled along the way? Because you could get to the destination and absolutely resent being there, right? Or
Yep.
just feel regret every step of the way because you're making those sacrifices. Always choose something that is true to yourself, because that's where real fulfillment lies. And chase the dreams that are truly your own, not the ones that you were conditioned to chase, or what other people expect, or the dreams that give you that external validation, because if you get there, somebody else will appreciate you or recognize you. I think all of those things, we tend to adopt other people's expectations so easily, because that is our conditioning in society, right? But when you cannot distinguish between what is truly yours versus someone else's expectations, you end up achieving it, and then you have no fulfillment. So for me, the big driver has always been about success is achievement plus fulfillment, not one without the other. And I think in your own journey, I'm sure you've seen that, is that making the choice to walk away from a tech career and building content, that is not very easy to monetize, especially in the early days. And, having the expectations that other people have about where is that really leading? What's the big game plan?
Yeah.
It takes tremendous amount of belief and conviction to stay true to that. But when you do become successful in doing exactly that, it's priceless, because you've done it on your own terms, and nobody can take that away from you.
Yes. Oh, beautifully said. Very, very well said. I was going to start asking you about something else, but I feel like you have such an interesting journey that the audience relates with. So I want to stay here for just a little bit longer. When it comes to you building because it's the type of business I have and the businesses that you've built are a little different, right? You have employees. You've had to fundraise.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
done that.
What have been
I've done multiple businesses, so it's been all different kinds, you know. So I've learned a lot of, had a lot of different experiences in each of those.
what has been, I guess, the biggest challenge that you've faced building businesses, and what did that challenge teach you? I feel like that's such a
Mm,
blanket question, but
yeah,
I'm just giving you the freedom to pick kind of whatever you think would resonate.
yeah. Well, first off, I think that decision that people make to walk away from the safety of a paycheck is this first step of the journey, right? Because this that's where the rubber meets the road, because you've got bills to pay, you've got healthcare, insurance needs, and all of those kind of things. There's very real responsibilities, and to walk away from that and say, I'm going to just start my own business, or if you start to scale and you have people on payroll that are dependent on you, that takes it to the next level of responsibility. Then when you start scaling it even further, I mean, there's just different levels that you achieve in each of those stages. Um, but I think the one common element that I've learned over and over and over again is it all comes down to self belief. You have to have a reason that is bigger than yourself. And whether it is your belief that, yes, I can quit that safety of a paycheck and a 401k and health insurance and bet on myself, that's self belief, because there are no guarantees. No matter how confident you may be about something, life happens. You could start a business and COVID hits. What are you going to do? Right? There are things that are wildly out of your control. The self belief isn't so much about you coming up with a perfect business idea or being the best at marketing and sales to generate revenue. The self belief really comes down to knowing that no matter what obstacles you face, you will find a way to overcome them. That's what their self belief really has to be about. That challenges will come about, things will go wrong.
Yeah.
All of my best efforts may fail, but whatever I end up with, I can find a way through. That belief, I've found, has guided me every step of the way and helped me scale bigger and bigger businesses after 4 companies, global employees, and customers, from some of the world's blue chip brands to multi-million dollars in revenue, growing 500% year over year. All of those things have happened simply because I was able to take a risk, but took the risk because that self-belief that even if things go wrong, I can figure it out. And the question I've been asked is, well, does that just mean that you're more confident than somebody else who is dealing with self-doubt? How do they solve it? If someone's struggling with self-doubt, how are they supposed to overcome that and take a risk or do something that feels uncomfortable? The thing with self-belief is it's like a muscle. It is not something you're born with. It is not something they're going to have on day one, but it does get bigger and stronger and better the more you exercise it. So each time you bet on yourself just a little bit, you're giving yourself evidence that, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can figure this out. Yes, I can try just a little bit more or risk a little bit more. So the key to all of this is keep betting on yourself, keep taking chances, and trust that the more you do it, the stronger you'll get.
I love what you said about self-belief and how it's not a guaranteed success, but it's believing that you can figure it out, because obstacles will arise. And
Yeah.
I think people assume sometimes the self-belief means, oh, I need guaranteed success, but success
Yeah,
is never guaranteed, right? It typically
absolutely.
the route to success is the route we least expected. And then it ends
Yeah.
up working out just like it needed to. But I love what you said there. And one of the exercises I take my clients through, because they can immediately go to the worst case scenario, I have them
Yeah.
write down everything that you're worried about right now that could happen. And then ask yourself, what would I do if that happened? And
Hmm.
they always have a solution for it. And that's what
Yeah.
self belief is, right? That you are
Yeah.
going to figure it out. And if it doesn't work out, you'll figure out what it is that will
Yeah.
work out, right? It'll
Yeah.
redirect you. So I love
Absolutely. And sometimes even if you cannot think of a solution, if that happens, sometimes when we can come up with an idea to solve a problem, it's because we don't know enough. There's ignorance in knowing the strategies and things like that. But that's where community comes in.
that. Right.
When you have the right peer community that can help you solve those problems, you're never alone. And that's where you simply have to have the courage to ask and the humility to ask for help. And when you do that, there's always a way. And I found that to be true. I've gotten into some of the craziest challenges throughout my career that um, the previous me would have never imagined being able to get through, right? Like the previous version of yourself is like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I would quit, I would give up, I would like
Yeah.
never be able to get through, I would die if that happened. Like all of that talk that goes on in your head. And yet I've overcome all of those things, including one of my businesses, which I started, and 3 months later, COVID hit, and the entire business model fell flat. But changing that around led to enormous success. So each time when you are able to overcome that, you're training your mind to trust that you can. And the more you trust yourself, the more you're able to take risks. And the more risks and chances you take, you increase your odds of success.
Beautiful. Okay, let's transition to talking a little bit about AI, which has been
Yes.
the hot topic. And, it is something that is evolving so fast and it can feel
Mhm.
very overwhelming. I mean, as you know, I was in the tech industry for many years. So I feel like I'm pretty tech savvy. I try to keep up with things.
Mhm.
But I can imagine that for the individual who has not worked in tech and AI just can feel very overwhelming. My question is, what should Latinas in the workforce or even in entrepreneurship
Yeah.
know how AI is changing the game and what is truly at stake if we don't keep up? Why is it important for us to learn about AI, adopt AI, and how can it support us?
Yeah. Well, it's the most transformative event in human history, in modern human history, for sure, right? It's in my career, I've kind of seen the waves of, the internet and e-commerce dominating to seeing, mobile commerce taking off and social media and all of those things. But the difference with AI is not just the scale of impact, the difference is the speed. If you think back to brick and mortar businesses building online stores, that took years. 20 years later, I mean, you could still technically sell things through a physical store and not go out of business. Today, if you're not adopting AI, you're going to get left behind. So I think what makes it a true disruption of this scale and magnitude is the speed of change. And I think that's what we're all feeling, right? I mean, just a few months ago, 6 months ago was when things, a lot of new technologies and LLMs got introduced. And now here we are 6 months later, where every business, every type of work, every business model is completely transforming with that. And the thing to keep in mind is when something changes at this speed, it can either be the greatest disruptor or the greatest equalizer, because the systems that exist in place that sometimes hold some people back or prevent some people from getting access, it breaks those systems. And to me, that's the reason I'm really excited about AI, is because it's breaking the existing barriers, and it's actually an opportunity for more people to have economic opportunity, more people to advance in their careers, more people to amplify their value and their message. It's an opportunity for more people to, or business owners, to have more profit without adding more headcount or operating costs. There's just so many things that were never possible before that frankly are available to everyone. Anyone that chooses it can take advantage of it. You don't need a computer science degree for that. You don't need to go to MIT or Stanford for that. You don't need any kind of special skill set or mindset for that. Um, the only thing that's important is that you have an open mind. That's it. You just have to have an open mind that I'm willing to unlearn the old way. and I'm willing to experiment and have fun with a whole new way. And if you are able to do that, the world's your oyster. You can have anything you want. And particularly for us at Latinos in Tech, the reason the AI disruption is so critical to our mission becoming even more important is that I believe there'll be a new kind of divide of haves and have-nots. In the olden days, it was all about wealth, who has wealth and who doesn't. I believe now there's going to be a new kind of divide of who embraces and leverages AI and who doesn't. And in that, if we don't prepare ourselves, if we're not embracing it fully, we're going to get left behind, and we're going to get left behind really fast, and that's risky. And so our focus is really threefold. Number one, we're making it easier for our members and our community to embrace AI and become AI literate very quickly. So we have an AI academy that allows them to master those skills. Number two, we really help people think more strategically about the use of AI. This is not just tactically using AI for everything, but how do you amplify your market value? Because you're not going to get replaced by AI. AI isn't taking away your job, but somebody who's better at using AI will take away your job. So how can you actually leverage AI better and stay future ready and use it to essentially make your power a superpower with AI? And the third part is we're building community around it so that we all level up together and nobody gets left behind, because there is an element of fear. There is an element of, well, yeah, I kind of use ChatGPT, but do I really need to change everything? This sense of like, no, I still got time. Well, you don't want to end up being like the Blockbuster that got replaced by Netflix, right? So by leveling up together, there's a sense of momentum and support and empowerment that everybody can embrace it. So that's really where our single biggest focus as it relates to AI is, how do you turn it from a disruptor that impacts people and they get left behind, to an equalizer that opens doors and provides access for everyone to succeed.
Beautiful. So for those of you listening, what Nikki's really getting at here is, which I think you made very clear, but I just think it's worth pointing out again. What you're saying is, in the past, unless you had access to some of these top universities, education, or access to even like financial knowledge, or honestly,
Sure.
any knowledge, right?
Yeah.
There was a barrier to entry. You kind of had either know somebody or you needed to attend one of these universities. But now with the power of AI, we have the power to learn pretty much anything that we
Anything you
want.
want.
So can you give us
Exactly.
just like a few examples of what some of the things are that you've either seen other people use or that you've used, or some of the ways that it's already helped equalize?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can share about it in the context of employees and entrepreneurs, because there are different ways in which that could be leveraged. I mean,
Yeah.
if you own your own business, it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or if you have a small team, whatever kind of business you run. One of the biggest challenges for small businesses is often, the net income you're left with, right? The margins are so low that even when you make good revenue, the reality is, by the time you get to the bottom of your P&L, there's so little money left, that, and each time you think of scaling your business or growing your business, you're just putting in more and taking away less. To me, one of the biggest impacts that AI makes available to every entrepreneur, is that you're able to reduce operating costs, that you can actually scale your business, whether you're generating leads using AI, whether you're delivering services or creating products using AI, or that you're actually like, running your back office functions with AI without needing to add a 10-person team or outsource more, right? So these are things that have a dramatic impact where you could literally double your profit with no additional cost, simply using AI tools. That is life changing for a business owner, right? For any business owner, when they think about how much money they actually have at the end of the year, if you're able to double or triple that just by using AI, that is truly game changing. And that's a huge equalizer, because now with that extra income or that extra profit, you can even decide to invest differently in your business or
Right.
do moves that you didn't have available to you before. When it comes to corporate professionals that have built their careers based on certain job functions,
Mhm.
it's an opportunity to reinvent yourself without waiting for your manager or your boss telling you how to do things differently. Don't wait for your company to send you to some AI boot camp or training and say, how do I do my job differently? Be proactive. Just use AI to, and you can even use Chat GPT prompts to say, this is my job. This is what I do every day. How can I do it faster, better, more effectively? Give me the exact strategies to break it down. So whether it's automating workflows, whether it is writing reports faster, creating better presentations, communicating better, building networks and connections more intelligently. There's just so many things you can do. And if you're lost about where do I start, because it feels like there's just so much stuff I could do with AI, even for that, go back to AI and ask it. Here's my life and my work. I don't know where to begin. What do you think I should do? If all you can do is ask questions, you'll get the answers. And that is a great starting point to start feeling comfortable and really integrating AI into your life and not getting left behind.
Wow. Yeah, I can agree that as an entrepreneur, it has saved me so much time when it comes
Yeah.
to marketing. And the beautiful thing is that you can customize it, right? And
Yeah.
so my AI bots have my entire curriculum. They have my ideal client persona. They have my tone of voice. So it always sounds like me. It knows my stuff. And it has saved me so much time and saved me so much money as well. But I love what you said, especially with the careers, somebody who is in a career rather than waiting for management to ask them about AI, how can they just adopt it now? Because I think what
Yeah.
you said earlier was also key, where AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who's leveraging AI can. And
Yeah.
that's huge. So, for anybody listening who is feeling behind or really limited by tech, or as we mentioned earlier, overwhelmed, what would you say to them to encourage them to lean in rather than to opt out and just completely avoid because they feel overwhelmed?
Yeah. Well, anything new can be scary and daunting, right? Because every time there's change, as human beings, we're naturally resistant to change. Change is scary. Change takes away the certainty that we're used to. But there's one element that takes turns fear into fun, and that is curiosity. Lean into curiosity when it comes to any kind of change. It doesn't matter whether it's AI or robots or whatever, you throw in any kind of new technology. The moment you get curious and lean into something that feels childlike and playful, that fear can very quickly turn into fun. And that's honestly been my personal philosophy whenever I've looked into I've switched lanes so many times into completely new industries, adopted new technologies faster than usual, been in the business of innovation for most of my career and all of that. And it's not because I have any unique skill or higher intelligence or more discipline or anything of that sort. I'm just deeply curious and I lean into that curiosity. And part of that curiosity is, tinkering with things or being around other people that are just as curious. And that's where community also plays a big role, because being around the right kind of peer group normalizes success and takes away fear. Because, and you have a community as well, right? So we see that, like, when people are around like-minded, ambitious professionals, a lot of times things that they might have hesitated about, they're suddenly a little bit more comfortable because they don't feel so alone. They don't feel inadequate in some way. They're seeing that everybody else struggles with the same thing. So they're much more likely to try things out. But also things that are aspirational, they can see that, hey, somebody else has done it, so I can do it too. So whenever it is, whether it's AI or any other new technology, lean into it with curiosity and playfulness and surround yourself with the right kind of peers that normalize change for you.
Curiosity. Amazing. So, why specifically for Latinas is it important for us to adopt AI?
Well, one of the challenges when we consider the corporate world in general or the business world in general is that we have a huge gap in Latinas in leadership. When you look at the pipeline, the beyond mid-career, it starts to drop pretty dramatically. And the same is true for entrepreneurs as well. You don't see businesses scale beyond $1 million where there's, enough Latinas that own those kind of businesses or that scale of success. And it has nothing to do with talent, and it has everything to do with access.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived it firsthand, so I can categorically say that the first half of my career was completely different from the second half of my career. My intelligence was no different. My ambition was no different. My dedication and hard work was no different. The only thing that was different between the first half and the second half was access. The moment I got access to the right resources, the right strategies, the right mentors and sponsors,
Mm-hmm.
my success accelerated, my wealth multiplied, and instead of chasing opportunities, I had opportunities coming to me. And that is really when I think about, what is so critical to solve, is simply that we cannot have a world where Latinas are getting left behind, that were already underrepresented in the
Mm-hmm.
workforce and leadership, that now the gap widens even more because of AI and the speed of change of AI. What is critical in this kind of environment is to provide access. And that's, a big part of what we bring to the table is we're focusing on providing access to the right kind of resources and capabilities, the right kind of connections that can open doors and, open up, provide opportunities, and the right kind of relationships and friendships with the peer community that you can level up with. And we believe that access will be a game changer to, build all of the future leaders of our world, because our world is better when there's, a reflection of diversity in everything that gets created. And, we're determined to make heifas that rule that world.
Love it. I have a little plaque right here that says La Jefa.
Yeah, there you go.
Great. So you have been named one of the most influential women in entrepreneurship. And I want to know, what is one mistake that you've made in your career that actually taught you your most important leadership lesson?
I would say trying to fit in. For too long, I was really focused on being accepted
Mm.
and really focused on belonging and fitting in. And, as someone who's an immigrant to this country and is non-white and female and gay, and like I checked every box of diversity, and I was,
Mhm.
always on the outside of every inner circle. So no matter what community I was part of, I felt like I didn't belong. And in order to fit in, um, I felt like I was contorting myself to fit into that box defined by somebody else. And the more I became like everybody else, the less there was of me to see, because I was just like everybody else. There was nothing different.
Yeah.
When I finally shed those expectations and I stopped trying to fit in and I became unapologetically authentic, showing up exactly as who I am, saying exactly what I believe, and leading exactly in the ways and with the principles that I live by, everything changed. What I discovered is that what makes you different is actually your biggest differentiator. And so instead of trying to live somebody else's path, plan defined for you, or live by somebody else's rules, or say what you believe people will find acceptable, um, you know, when you simply learn to be yourself and be confident in that and lead with your own core values, it it's apparently what leads to becoming the most influential leader.
Yeah.
Influence comes from simply being yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And it's so much easier said than done, right? Because we have to figure out who we are. And I
Yeah,
think just as women of color, as women in general, sometimes we're just conditioned to be who we're told we're supposed to
yeah,
be, right? Whether it's the media or culture and even family, which that has good intentions. But
yeah,
I love what you said about that that thing that makes you different is what's going to make you stand out. And for a long time, I didn't talk about having called off an engagement, or like I was really ashamed of,
Hmm.
yeah, I let it go that far, and then it didn't move to the next step, and that has turned out to be one of the most popular stories that people say back to me. So I've been asked to
Yeah.
speak about it at We All Grow Latina. I've been interviewed about it. I mean, it was one of those things that initially I wanted to hide. And
Yeah.
now I'm very aware that it's what connects other people to me, because it shows my humanity, and it showed a lot of courage as well. So I think people
Hmm.
resonate with it in a lot of different ways. So I can definitely see how you stepping into being an authentic leader is really when
Hmm.
your magic started, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What you said about your own experience in this, um, all of us, when we hide parts of ourselves, or we're afraid, or we're trying too hard to fit in, even though it's not who we are, at its core, it's because there's some element of shame. you know we were ashamed of our background, or we're ashamed of what we don't have. Oh, I didn't go to Harvard for MBA. Okay, I'm ashamed to like talk about that. Or
Mhm.
I made a mistake and experienced a massive failure, or I lost money, or I got divorced. Whatever those set of things are in our life, we hide them because there's an element of shame in that. But when we embrace it as simply choices that we made because we are living true to ourselves, and we proclaim that with courage,
Mhm.
it actually inspires other people to take a chance on themselves too. And that's why they relate, to courageous stories of embracing a vulnerability, and not hiding in shame.
Yes. Oh, you're so right about the shame part. So that's a good question for people to reflect on. What am I ashamed of?
Yeah.
What is it that I'm
Yeah.
trying to hide? So, as the interim CEO of Latinas in Tech, you're now at the helm of one of the most powerful networks for Latina
Yeah.
professionals. So, I want to know what excites you the most about this chapter in your life and in your career, and what do you hope to accomplish? I think you've already told us a little bit with AI, right? Within
Yeah.
within the community, but what else?
Yeah. Yeah, well, for me personally, it's such an incredible honor and a privilege to be in this role and to lead this amazing community, especially in this day and age, because we're at such a pivotal point in modern human history and technology, and also the general environment of being able to lead it during this time is enormous privilege for me. And in many ways, it's sort of a full circle moment, because these are my own lived experiences, things that I've overcome, and now to be able to pay it forward and to pave the way, it's tremendous. And years ago, somebody, a mentor of mine, had said to me that your career is really divided in two halves. The first half is about legitimacy, where you're trying to prove yourself, right? Become legitimate in some way, be taken seriously, gain credibility, and all of that. The second half of your career is all about legacy. It's no longer about what you know and what you have. It's about what you give back and what you create for others. And for me, this is completely aligned with the path to legacy. And that's why it's everything we do has such personal meaning and purpose and fulfillment. So even going back
Mhm.
to my own personal fulfillment is completely aligned with that. And in terms of what the focus is for the organization, our mission is all about advancing Latinas and tech and beyond. And we want to see more of our community rise up, without being held back because of access to opportunity, or access to resources and skill building and so forth. And the only way our mission gets even stronger is if we touch more lives. It's as simple as that. The more lives we touch, the more hefas we build, the more we live our mission every day. And so, in achieving that outcome, we're really focused on three pillars. And number one is creating the kind of programming and resources that empower our members to unlock their fullest potential, right? That they're not um, struggling or getting left behind because they just didn't have the right mentors or the right programs or the right access to things. Number two, it's partnering with corporate companies, corporate leaders, in being able to get access to incredible talent. The success of any company is getting access to the best talent, and getting access to the best minds. And that's what we are enabling through our sponsorships, the relationships we build with all of these companies. And they're able to tap into a workforce that is often underestimated, and we're helping them get access to that. And the third part is the grassroots level effort of the chapters. We have 25 chapters around the world, with close to 25,000 members worldwide. And so our focus is on enabling our chapters to provide that grassroots level local programming and events and community building, because it doesn't matter how big Latinas in Tech as an organization gets. For each person, what's going to matter is, how do I feel in my local neighborhood when I go to a chapter event? Who am I meeting there? Do I feel like I belong, or I feel like the only at the table in my workplace, but I go to one of the chapter events and suddenly I feel like I belong there, and I have so many people I can relate to, and they're opening doors and they're helping me out. And we want to create more of that local grassroots community and support system. And it's also building friendships for a lifetime. So how can we facilitate more of that? So that's really the three-pronged approach in terms of growing our member base. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is, this is not just for those that are in tech professions or the tech industry. It's open to anyone who's curious about tech. Maybe they're in media or marketing, or they're in back office operations, but they're curious about how tech, can change their careers. We are a community that allows you to switch careers or expand your perspective and provide you with those tools. And with the free membership and free chapter events, it's just a matter of signing up to be able to, step into your future.
I'm so glad you mentioned even for people who aren't in tech, because the next question I have for you is actually about the Latinas in Tech Summit, which is happening
Yeah.
very soon. It's happening in May. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is it that attendees can expect this year? And why should somebody make space to attend, even if they're not in tech?
Yeah. Well, look, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. Today, everybody is in tech because of the
Yeah.
role of AI and automation and everything that's happening. It doesn't matter. I mean, your podcast, for example, is just as influenced by tech. Whether it's content production or distribution, it's all,
Yeah.
tech is everywhere. Nobody is immune to tech. So, don't think that you're, sort of separated by tech because of what you do. I think everybody's in the tech business today. Our annual summit this year is in San Francisco, May 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's 3 days of action-packed transformation, as the best way I can describe it. It's the energy is going to be out of the world, because there's thousands of people coming to this event that are not only getting an opportunity to get access to powerful leaders and different kinds of career opportunities and growth opportunities. There's a bunch of great actionable workshops where you're not sitting there passive taking notes. You're actually stepping in, leaning in, mastering skills, and walking away with tangible transformation. There's a lot of community building, where I really think of it as part career growth and part family reunion feel. So it's
Beautiful.
going to be incredibly fun to be able to do that. But this year's summit, especially because of what's happening in AI and with the uncertainty in the job market, with all of the changes that companies are going through, and what it means to every person, in terms of the future, we've really taken the lens of, how can you become future ready? What are the things you need to do, whether it is mastering the right skills, whether it is developing yourself as a professional, in terms of the right sort of mindset and capabilities you need, whether it's thinking about your fitness and wellness. We're also focusing on that, because that's just as much part of how to avoid burnout and prepare
Definitely.
yourself for big things. And then finally, generational wealth building. How do you think about wealth creation and money. And all four of these tracks are part of the 3-day summit, because we're not just looking at it as you're going to come to the summit because it's like a tech conference and it's all these tech topics and all of that. We're looking at the transformation of the whole human. You know, how do you prepare for the future? You prepare by learning the right skills, you prepare by developing the right mindset, by having the right physical energy and wellness, and by, embracing wealth. And I think that too is such a huge conditioning gap often that holds people back, where no matter how successful you are, that your bank account may not reflect that. So we're particularly focusing on that as one of the topics as well that we want to enable at the summit.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like a transformational 3-day event. To your point, not just about technology, but how you as a person can get ahead regardless of the uncertainty,
Yeah,
regardless of what's going on outside of us, regardless of what happens with your, company's next round of funding, and if you might have a job or not. How can you be prepared? Because the only thing
yeah.
we really have control over is ourselves. So that sounds
I think that's exactly it. That in a world that's changing so fast and is filled with massive uncertainty and risk, focus on what you can control and stop, let go of what you cannot control. And
yeah,
what you can control is investing in yourself, surrounding yourself with the right kind of network that can help you advance, and getting access to the right opportunities at the right time. And that's really what the summit is about. So, if you're on the fence or thinking about what would be a catalyst for your transformation, so that you can leapfrog ahead, this, sign up for the summit. This is where the action is. If you're wanting to know what the future looks like, you'll find out at the summit.
and you'll meet incredible people who are also looking to become the best version of themselves, right? Because they're also going to be
Absolutely.
there. Yeah, so we
Yeah,
will.
it's sort of like that. You become the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and I think that's where, the more virtual and digital our world is getting, uh, it's easy to connect with people, but really hard to build deep connections. And
Yes.
in-person summits, I think one of the opportunities it provides is you can actually build a relationship, not just have a LinkedIn connection that goes nowhere, right? And
Yeah,
and the relationships you build are going to be the ones that change your life, change your career, and make you feel like you belong.
definitely. So we will link down below the link so that people can secure
Yeah,
their spot at the summit. And the last question that I have for you is, you believe we're, or the, yeah, last question is, you believe that we're all limitless. And that is a message that I absolutely love. But for our listeners navigating fear, change, or uncertainty, funny, we were just talking about
yeah.
that, or uncertainty, what is the one mindset shift that can help them move forward with courage?
Hmm. Everything we do is defined by the identity that we hold.
Yes.
So if you believe that you are middle class and you can have at most a six-figure income, and that you only have so much energy and so many hours in the day, and you are not a confident speaker, or all of those things are beliefs.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, otherwise, they're all beliefs. And those beliefs shape the identity that we attach to ourselves. To become limitless is as simple as changing your identity. Before you can change your skills, you got to change your identity. Skills take time to develop, but identity takes a moment. All you have to do is shift your identity and who do you need to be? What is the next version of yourself? And how do you design that identity and step into it and let the rest of you catch up to it? So every time I've taken big leaps, um, big dreams and big ambitions, before I took any action, before I built the skills or the network for it, the first thing I did was define the exact identity of who do I need to be in order to get there. And simply, design that identity. And I think of it just like, outfits in your closet. If
Yeah.
this one's a little dated and out of season, just switch it out, put on a different outfit. It's like superhuman cape, right? You just put on the cape that you need in order to get where you want to be.
That is such a powerful message. The opinion we have of ourselves is the opinion that determines what our life looks like, right? And I'm going to a conference this weekend and I'm hosting a manifestation workshop. It's a conference with all women entrepreneurs, all women of color entrepreneurs. And I was asked to lead, I was already attending it, and I was asked to lead a manifestation workshop. And I was thinking last night, I was thinking about what I was going to talk about because it's a pretty short workshop. But I was like, how do I make it the most powerful? And one of the things I wrote down is we don't manifest what we want, we manifest what we believe we deserve. And we
Hmm.
manifest the
Yeah.
things that when we become that version of ourselves that is ready to receive it. Because
Yeah.
even if you don't feel ready to receive, if you don't have that identity of, oh yeah, I'm capable of figuring out the next step for this opportunity, I'm capable of getting this done, a lot of times we self-sabotage. I mean, there's been times
Yeah.
when I've invited people to the podcast and I don't hear back. And
Yeah.
they are people I know, right? So I know it's not from this place of, oh, I feel too good. It's from this place of, I feel not
Less
prepared.
than.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I love the message you gave us today about belief, because that
Yeah.
opinion and that belief that you have of yourself is, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, it matters what you think, right? So you can be
Yeah.
successful on paper, but if you don't believe you're worthy of a fulfilling life, you're never going to make those changes.
Yeah.
So you've
It's a
shared,
little bit like a
yeah,
thermostat. We all have our resting point.
yeah,
And
yes,
even when you aim beyond that resting point, if you don't actually change your average, you're going to come back to that. That's where self-sabotage happens. That's where or you do the work and you deliver the results, but you are afraid to ask for the reward. You don't ask for the money for the work that you created, right?
yeah,
Because your resting point is at this level and you're operating, you're aiming for this level, you're going to keep coming back.
yeah,
So identity changes your resting point.
yeah.
Identity shifts what you believe you deserve, what you believe you can do, and what you expect the world to provide to you as well. Everything changes with identity.
And I can already hear my listeners asking, well, how do I raise the temperature? But I think it's what you mentioned earlier, right? Where it's a practice, it's a muscle, it's
Yeah.
something you get better at with time. But do you have anything else to share with shifting their
Yeah, I mean,
identity?
a very simple exercise and something I've done for many, many years is really take the time to identify, who you look up to,
Yeah.
whether it's in business or life, whether it's about values or results. Identify clearly who the people are, that you look up to. But rather than look at their results, don't look at the fact that, oh, this person's a billionaire or they own
Mhm.
5 companies, or
Mhm.
it's not the results you want to look at. You want to identify what are their behaviors, mindsets, decisions that got them to that outcome,
Yeah.
right? And it could be someone even in your family that you admire very much. Look at how do they live, and then adopt those behaviors or build those behaviors into your new identity. So if the person you admire or the people that you admire all have a common habit of, maybe they meditate every day, your new identity should embrace meditation, as an example. If they all are super fit and are very health conscious, embrace that, even if that's different from your current day to day, right? So when you start to identify, when you create your new identity, give it attributes and characteristics. It's almost like designing a movie character, right? You're designing the next version of yourself. So give it personality. What does that person do? What does the day in the life of this new identity look like? What do they eat, drink, work out? Who do they hang out with? What kind of decisions do they make? How do they invest their time in things? Write out a whole character for this new identity, and then simply bit by bit start to embrace those characteristics. And that may take time, but once you commit to that identity, it becomes a lot easier to make that shift.
So good. This is so valuable. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share with us today?
Well, no, I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think what I'd love to leave people with is really dream big, bet on yourself and dream big, because the world doesn't have the right to make you small, and you have to bet on yourself and take space, and dream those big dreams and then take the action to follow up and make it happen. And one of the best ways to be able to do that and not feel alone is to be part of a community. And that's why Latinas in Tech exists. And I hope for those that are already members that they're excited about coming to Summit, and those that are venturing, even if they're outside of tech, will explore coming to one of our chapters or coming to the Summit. And, it's all about leveling up together and changing the world.
Beautiful. And we will have all of those links down below. Nikki, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, for your time, and all of the gems that you dropped. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K, because I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.